Hey everybody, so I'm starting a podcast and my friend Molly sent me the first question, which is, how do you price a home in this market and what can you do to make your home competitive within this marketplace? Accurately pricing a home in any market takes several considerations. You are pulling comparatives, but it's also that skill of being able to know the nuances of the different properties that are in the comparative so that you know that this house that's X price should really be more or less than your subject property. To really be able to evaluate that, it's not just about square footage, it's not just about bedrooms. There's a lot more that goes into analyzing the properties when you're doing a comparative. You're pulling up homes that have been active, pending, and sold. In the past 6 months, sometimes you go back 12 months with the inventory short that we've had, as long as within the past 12 months there really hasn't been a big change. For instance, when you had 2020 to 2021, there was such exponential growth going on that going back a year could be highly irrelevant. But these days, going back 9 months or so, it's still, the market hasn't really shifted that much. Active is really showing you that current marketplace, where things are at. Now, sellers can ask whatever they want. So a listing that's active may or may not ultimately sell for its asking price. I always look at the history of active listings when I am doing a comparative to really get a feel for, like, okay, is this house really going to sell for what it's asking, or is it most likely going to sell for less? Okay, so there's that judgment call going on with the active listings. The pendings, some listing agents will share what they got, some won't. It depends upon how far along they are in pending. Most agents, if it's newly pending, will not want to share that just in case something happens with the deal. They really don't want to let that number go out. So you're really looking at that history again to see how long was that house on the market before it went pending. You can generally tell if it had multiple offers, or if it, likely got right around ask or even potentially over ask, depending upon the history. So you have that with pending. Sold, sellers can ask whatever they want. The value of a home is ultimately really through the sale price and dictated by the buyers, whether up or down from the asking price. The way I look at the active listings, there are listings that have been on the market for several months at this point across price points. I love those listings when I am introducing a new property to the market, because I will leverage them. I won't price against them. I will leverage them to the benefit of my clients. Okay, so there's quite a bit that's going on when it comes to pricing strategy. When it comes to positioning yourself competitively, my goal is to get the biggest bang for the buck with whatever my sellers are doing. I will say that often windows, having them cleaned is top on the list. If you have not cleaned your windows recently, meaning within the past year or two, they could look clean, but it is truly amazing the difference that it makes to have them freshly cleaned, especially if you're in a setting where you've got, just beauty outside, bringing that outside in through the windows. Here's an example of some window shots with clean windows. The windows could read as clean, but if they are not freshly cleaned, often a light haze will be on the windows that show up in the photographs. You've heard clutter, get rid of the clutter. But there's other things. It really just depends upon the home, and it's really very custom as far as best practices with preparing the house for sale. It really is so custom depending upon the home itself. My goal is to obviously have my clients spend as little as possible and get the highest return. I mean, that's the goal I've got for my clients. And then there is the magic of marketing, which is a true skill and a craft, and really defining who the buyer is for different properties. And it could be multiple buyer channels. In fact, it usually is. Knowing how to speak to them and knowing how to reach them. A lot of different components that go into positioning and pricing a home and effective sales. All right, Molly, I answered your question. If you've got some questions, send them on.